Hello, my name is Ayaz Hussain from the Google Nest training team, and today we're going to be talking about the Google Nest ecosystem. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the Nest family of thermostats. So that's the Nest Learning Thermostat, Thermostat E, and the new Nest thermostat. We'll walk through scheduling, setback features, some of the other advanced features. We'll talk about HVAC monitoring, compatibility, configuration, and then we'll finish off by comparing and contrasting those thermostats. Then we'll talk about the Nest Protect, which is our smoke and carbon monoxide detector, and then the Nest Hello, which is our video doorbell. We'll then finish off with a broad view of the Nest ecosystem, including product categories that we didn't mention today, as well as any other third-party devices, some of our cool native integrations, and then we'll finish with the Google Assistant. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the Nest family of thermostats are three smart thermostats. You have on the left there, the Nest Thermostat E, which is a Pro exclusive, meaning it can only be bought during distribution channels. In the middle there, you've got the Nest Learning Thermostat, which is our flagship thermostat, and it's been sold and been very popular for almost a decade now. And then on the right, we have the new Nest thermostat, or just called the Nest Thermostat, which was released in 2020. So the Nest family of thermostats have a bunch of features that are really very helpful, and we'll kind of break them down into four categories here. So we've got easy scheduling options, such as auto schedule or even a guided setup, and we'll walk through all of these a little bit later here. We've also got the ability for our thermostats to set themselves to an energy saving temperature when you leave the house. And then we've also got some advanced features that leverage our awesome artificial intelligence and algorithms, as well as local weather data and your HVAC system performance and runtime to help manage some more complex systems. And then we've also got a really cool new program called HVAC monitoring, which is a sweet feature that's been introduced to all of the Nest thermostats out there on the market. So let's go ahead and jump right in. First thing I want to talk about is where Nest thermostats came from and what they were really designed for, and that's energy savings. So all of the Nest family of thermostats have been tested to show that they will save you 10 to 12% on heating bills and 15% on your cooling bills. Now, of course, this depends on the individual user and their habits, but these numbers were pulled from actual real world studies and not just set point differences and runtime hour differences. So there's a lot of different ways that we do this and that we help you save energy. And some of the helpful features here are going to be how we schedule your thermostat and how we schedule your HVAC system. So I want to kind of compare and contrast here and walk you through some of those options. So the Nest Learning Thermostat and the Thermostat E share just about every feature that they have. They share all of those features. So some will tell you, hey, that Nest Learning Thermostat, that's the only smart thermostat. The Thermostat E is not as smart. And that's simply not true. So let's talk about the scheduling options. So first, on the Learning Thermostat and Thermostat E, you've got a feature called Auto Schedule. This is one of our favorite features. And what this basically allows a user to do is once they've got this thermostat installed, it's going to actually learn their schedule from their usage and from their habits, and then actually program a schedule for them. So for 10 days, they're going to operate that thermostat normally. And then after those 10 days, it's actually going to generate a schedule based on how they've been using it for those previous 10 days. Now, you can always override a set point. You can always change a schedule. You will have a schedule for each mode, both heating, cooling, as well as your heat cool mode or your auto changeover. And then you can always turn off the auto schedule feature if you don't like it or it's not for you. And there certainly will be customers where this feature doesn't make sense. Now, on the new Nest thermostat, we've got a feature we call Guided Setup, as well as a feature we call Savings Finder. So Guided Setup, what this means is that instead of having the thermostat pick a schedule for you, we're going to walk you through and help you build your own schedule that's easy to follow and easy to understand. And then we'll use a feature called Savings Finder, which is where we're going to explicitly look for tweaks to your schedule that will help you save energy. So we're only going to make a suggestion, whereas Auto Schedule on the Learning Thermostat and Thermostat E will actually make a change to your schedule for you. The Savings Finder will only ever notify you that, hey, we see an opportunity for you to save by making a small tweak in your schedule. And this is how many hours of runtime we think you can save by making this change. Overall, the scheduling is really important with the Learning Thermostats as well as the new Nest thermostat, because it really makes it easy for a customer to operate their systems and also makes it easy to understand why their thermostat is doing what it's doing when it's doing that. Now, moving on to what we call smart setbacks. These are the features on our thermostats that will help determine when you're home and when you're away from the house. And when you are away from the house, your thermostats will actually set themselves into what we call your away temperatures or your eco temperatures. And those are a set of a temperature range that you are going to configure when you install this device. And it's designed to make sure that you're not running your system constantly while you're gone, but you're also not just turning it off completely so that it then has to run for hours on end to reach your scheduled set point when you do return home. So both of the all three of the thermostats do a very similar thing. We kind of call it a couple different things though. So on the learning thermostat and thermostat E, we call this home away assist. So this is using the sensors in the thermostat, so literally the motion sensors in the thermostat, as well as your phone's location to help determine when you're home and when you're not. And then if you are not home, the home away assist feature then sets your thermostat into your eco mode or your away mode. And that's where your thermostat's gonna enter that range of temperatures or your eco temps that your thermostat will maintain while you're gone from the house. Now, this is using both your habits, your sensors in the thermostat, as well as your phone to determine whether you're home or away. So it's very, very helpful because when I leave the house, I know that my thermostat and my HVAC system is not going to be running constantly while I'm gone, but it's also not going to let my house get too hot or too cold. Now, you can always adjust those eco temperatures if you find that it is too hot or it is too cold when you do return home. And you can also, of course, turn this feature off, although this is one that I wouldn't ever recommend turning this off. Now, in the new Nest thermostat, we call these features presence detection and away temperatures. The reason it's called something different is because we actually have other products that utilize these functions and this feature with the new Nest thermostat through the Google Home app. So things like cameras can also turn themselves off when you're gone or when you're home, depending on the camera. But the big difference here is that the new Nest thermostat is using your phone's location as determined by the Google Home app. And it can also trigger other devices like we mentioned. It can also trigger a routine. So when you're gone from the house, if you have, for example, a smart light, this thermostat can not only set itself to its away temperatures, it could also turn off your smart lights. Now, we've got some really cool advanced features that I think some of you guys are really going to be able to sink your teeth into. So one of the first one I want to talk about is time to temperature. So time to temperature is a feature which tells you how long it thinks it's going to take, how long the thermostat thinks it's going to take to reach its scheduled temperature from when it starts. So if you make a manual adjustment, turn it down 2 degrees, for example, it's going to tell you, I think it's going to take me 2 hours. So you'll literally see on the thermostat in 2 hours. So it's telling you, hey user, hey customer, it's going to take you a little bit of time. It's going to take this HVAC system a little bit of time to reach that scheduled set point. This will help customers understand, hey, my system takes quite a while to make a change. Maybe I need a new system. Maybe I need some new ductwork. Maybe I just need a refresh on my coolant, whatever that is. But the time to temper is just providing more information for that customer. And you would kind of hope that you get more information from an industry-leading smart thermostat. Now, the other feature is what we call weather aware. And this is not so much a feature as it's really just kind of built into how our thermostat makes decisions. So we're using local weather data from nearby NOAA weather stations, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And what we're doing is instead of using, for example, wired sensors outside your house, we're using this weather data to help provide context to our thermostats to help determine when should we run, how long is it going to take to get to our desired temperature, and things like that. Now, the next features I want to talk about are the Nest Leaf and energy history. So the Nest Leaf is a nifty little feature that will literally show you a small little green leaf on either the face of the thermostat or in the Nest or Google Home app when you're at an energy saving set point. So if you turn it down a little bit more in the winter or you turn it up a little bit higher in the summer, it's going to tell you based on your previous usage that you're at an energy saving setting. And it's of course going to put that into context with the weather. It's a really, really helpful little feature for people to just understand, hey, I'm saving energy right now. Now, energy history is one of my personally one of my favorite features. And what it allows you to do is see your runtime from the past day, week, or month. You can also see how many Nest Leafs you've earned. And then on the Nest Learning Thermostat and Nest Thermostat E in the Nest app, you can actually see why the thermostat thinks you used more or less energy. Be that a manual adjustment, maybe you've got a guest visiting and they turn the thermostat up or down and it caused you to use more or less and it'll tell you manual adjustment, or maybe it was particularly hot or cold that day causing you to use more or less energy. But I always like to know, hey, how long is my system running? And that way I can understand my system's doing well, maybe it's not doing well, or hey, maybe I just need to make an adjustment to my schedule because my system's running for 12 to 14 hours a day. Now, some of our helpful heating features, and these are some of the ones that I think are going to really catch your eye, are heat pump balance. So heat pump balance is where the thermostat can actually help determine how often we need to run your expensive auxiliary heat in a heat pump system. So the user actually has the choice to choose more comfort or more savings. And so what that means is if you choose, as a customer, if you choose more comfort, it says, well, when we're running your heating system on a heat pump system, we're actually going to engage your auxiliary heat earlier in your heating cycle to help you reach that temperature quicker, because you want to be more comfortable, right? You want that to reach the temperature. You want it to reach your set point quicker. But if you chose more savings, it will do its darndest to use all of your heat pump heating capability to actually heat your home rather than that expensive auxiliary heat. You don't have to configure an auxiliary lockout temperature with this feature. The thermostat is actually smart enough to understand in certain temperatures, we were not able to achieve the appropriate heating, or we weren't able to heat at all with that heat pump. And so therefore we're not going to use the heat pump. We'll go straight to the auxiliary heat. Now we've got a dual fuel feature, which is doing a very similar thing as heat pump balance, except on dual fuel systems. So you've got a heat pump system with a gas furnace or a secondary source of heat as a backup. And so the Nest thermostats will determine when should we turn on that secondary source of heat. And then the last one, and one of the really cool ones here, is True Radiant. So True Radiant tries to help you and your house heat and cool your system evenly with a hydronic system. So a boiler system, something like this, it wants to help avoid those large temperature swings, right? So if you've got in-floor radiant heating, we want to make sure that we don't just blow right past your set point because we ran our system for too long. Or we also don't want to let it just drop below or too cold or uncomfortable because we didn't recognize that it was going to take a long time to reach your set point once we start running. So these are all intelligent features, and you can kind of see how the Nest thermostats would need to know what the weather is like, how long it traditionally takes you to reach certain set points, so that it can always balance all of these things here and help make these decisions for you. Remember, it truly is a smart thermostat, and they are all smart thermostats. Now, the last bit here is the ability to control these devices easily. So you have the Nest app, and you also have the Google Home app. So the Nest app you're going to be able to see the Learning Thermostat and the Nest Thermostat E. You're going to be able to see all the features, all the settings, and control control both of those devices from that app. Now, in the Google Home app, this is where you're actually going to set up the new Nest thermostat, unlike the Learning Thermostat or Thermostat E, which are set up in the Nest app. But you'll be able to see all models of Nest thermostats in the Google Home app, and we're making sure that we move all of the features and settings available on the Nest app that you could see and control for a Learning Thermostat and Thermostat E, moving those features and controls over to the Google Home app as well, so that soon, hopefully, you'll be able to just use one app for all of your thermostats and devices. All right, next thing we want to talk about is HVAC monitoring. So HVAC monitoring is a really cool new feature and program that was launched this past year with the new Nest thermostats. And what this is doing is our thermostats are now looking out for potential HVAC issues, and it's going to alert customers proactively and to an immediate concern. And then it allows them to schedule a Nest Pro, be it their Nest Pro who installed it, or another Nest Pro in the area, to come out and do a diagnostic visit to see what's going on. So for our customers and for your contractors, Nest thermostats just became the most valuable thermostat they could possibly install. I'll tell you why here in just a second, and you'll see the breadth of the alerts that a customer will get and why that's going to be so helpful. But the idea is this is going to help you get into more homes during shoulder season, because the thermostat is actually going to be telling the customers themselves, hey, you need to do a service check. It's been a year. Maybe you need to get your heat pump system checked out. And that's going to ping them and have them contact you or contact your contractors to come back out and do a visit. Now, it also means that your contact information, your contractor's contact information, that is going to be stored on the Nest thermostats as well as in their apps for the life of that system. So even if they change out the equipment, if they keep that thermostat, your contractor's information is going to be in that thermostat and in their apps as the person who set up their smart home system and their smart thermostats for the life of that thermostat. It's better than any digital or any business card you'll be able to hand them. and it's actually going to continue to deliver value for your contractors for every thermostat they install. So we're going to be able to offer more value to our end users and to our customers with proactive alerts. And one of my favorite things about this program is that it is actually included as a feature on all Nest thermostats starting October of last year, 2020. So that means every Nest thermostat that has ever been installed now has these features and is now sending their customers alerts. Hey, you need to check out this or that. Now, wanted to mention some of the alerts that you can get. So 4 big categories here: immediate attention, early warnings, seasonal reminders, and other notifications. So immediate attention are severe heating and cooling alerts. So if your temperature has gone in the opposite direction of what your thermostat is trying to achieve, this is something you desperately need to know about and have a contractor come out and service. Now, of course, you are under no obligation to contact any contractor. This can just be great information for that end user. But if a customer did want to contact a contractor, they can either contact the contractor who installed it, for the Nest Pro who installed it, or they can actually reference and reach out to local contractors who are certified to service and install Nest thermostats. The other immediate attention alert is a furnace heads up alert. And this is where our furnace is short cycling and powering on and off quickly. It is certainly a big problem, as you know, and something we want to alert our customers to immediately. We also have early warnings, which are collected and sent weekly, both through the app, on the thermostat, and via email. And these are going to be intermittent heating and cooling alerts. So when we have powering on or off, a cooling degradation, which is one of my favorite alerts, where normally we're able to cool in X conditions, we're able to cool this fast, and now we're not able to do that. And so that's something that I really think is very, very important to customers to keep an eye on the health of their system. We'll also send you alerts for excess humidity. And then if you have a Nest Protect, which is our carbon monoxide and smoke alarm, we'll send you alerts to CO levels when the furnace is on. Now, seasonal reminders are something that's going to be able to give your contractor just that added value for installing these thermostats. I know a lot of them are running ads seasonally to have a furnace checkup or have a tune-up. And this is something that by installing a thermostat, each of those customers are going to get a specific alert, which can replace that furnace checkup ad that they're running on TV. But basically what we're going to send you an alert for is to check your heat pump. Also, maybe your home is losing temperature quickly and you maybe have more draftiness or poor insulation in your home. And we'll also just send you a general seasonal tune-up reminder to have a checkup before you hit peak use seasons. So it should really help in shoulder season to generate some more business for those contractors. And then the other notifications we're going to send are a little bit more important to the customer rather than the contractor, but they're going to send what we call filter reminders. So after 200 hours of runtime on a forced air system, we're going to let you know that it's time to change your air filter. I actually just got that alert the other day. We'll also send you an alert when a temperature threshold has been reached or when a humidity threshold has been reached, and we'd recommend to turn on the fan and circulate the air. Now, HVAC monitoring, all of these alerts, they are only going to the customer, to that end user. They're not going to go to the contractor directly. They're going to be sent to the customer, and then that customer has the ability and the choice to contact either the contractor who installed the thermostat, and if they're a Nest Pro, their contact information will live on that thermostat. But if it wasn't installed by a Nest Pro, they'll be notified. You can contact other Nest Pros in your area and have somebody come out and service it. Now, some of the big questions that we often get are around compatibility. So we wanted to make sure that we talk about this with the Nest family of thermostats. So first here on the left, we've got the Nest Thermostat E and the new Nest thermostat. So we like to give our thermostats a compatibility rating. And so we rate the Thermostat E and the new Nest thermostat at 85% compatible with 24-volt HVAC systems out there. Now, the fuel sources that we work with are gas, electric, forced air, heat pumps, radiant systems, oil, hot water, solar, geothermal. The majority of systems that you're going to run into out there in the world. And then the Nest Learning thermostat works with 95% of 24-volt HVAC systems and works with the same fuel sources. Now, we'll go into it a little bit more technically why the Learning thermostat has a higher compatibility rating. But to make it short, it's just the number of connectors on the base plate there that you see of the Nest Learning thermostat on the right. So the way to break it down here is that if you have a system that works with a Honeywell, you're going to work with the Nest thermostat. And now to be a little bit more specific, the new Nest thermostat and the Nest Thermostat E will work if you have a single stage of heating, a single stage of cooling, and a second stage of either heating or cooling. So we will not work with a 2 heat, 2 cool system on the Thermostat E or new Nest thermostat. If you do have a 2 heat, 2 cool system, you're going to need the learning thermostat. So on the learning thermostat, we can work with up to 3 stages of heating and a second stage of cooling. We can also work with a humidifier or a dehumidifier, unfortunately not both. And we'll also work with a multi-speed fan and dual transformer systems. Now, on the learning thermostat here, you can see our wire terminals and what equipment goes where. Note, looks pretty standard to the wiring terminals that you're familiar with already. And the one thing I would call out to you is the star connector on the bottom right. So that star connector is what allows us to work with a bunch of different types of systems and equipment that we may not have been able to use without having even more thermostat connectors or wire connectors. So your star connector is where you're going to put your humidifier, your dehumidifier, your third stage of heating, maybe emergency heat, or your multi-speed fan. So that star connector is really our ace in the hole here to be compatible with a lot of different system types. The rest of those wire terminals that you see there are going to be very standard on any other thermostats. Now, the Nest Thermostat E, one big thing, as you see, there's less wire connectors, right? So on the learning thermostat, there were 10. On the Thermostat E, there are 6. Now, the other thing to consider is that star terminal on the Thermostat E is also our OB terminal. So it's also our heat pump reversing valve terminal. And so therefore, you're going to have less flexibility on these systems because you only have a single cooling terminal and a single heating terminal. And that second stage of heating or cooling would go into your star OB terminal. So that's where you can see we're going to run into more limitations on compatibility. Now, again, 85% of HVAC systems, 24-volt HVAC systems in the US will work with this Nest Thermostat E. And the new Nest thermostat shares the exact same wire connectors as the Thermostat E. They're just in a different place. So again, we still have a single heating terminal, single cooling terminal, and that star OB terminal is a combined terminal, meaning you're only going to be able to put in your heat pump reversing valve there, or a second stage of heating, or a second stage of cooling. But again, just like any thermostat, you can only have one wire in that terminal. Now, configuration. What's it going to take to get this bad boy up and running? So on the Nest Learning thermostat and the Thermostat E, you're going to be setting them up primarily on the device. You'll finish the final configuration steps on the Nest app, and you'll input a Pro ID. If your contractor's a Nest Pro, they'll input that Pro ID on the thermostat itself. Now, the new Nest thermostat is configured and set up entirely and exclusively in the Google Home app. You have a separate Pro setup flow for this new Nest thermostat, meaning you don't have to take a customer's phone to configure this device. Whereas on the Learning thermostat or the Thermostat E, what we recommend to our contractors is do all the setup you can on the thermostat and then have a customer come in and add that thermostat to their account at the very end. But the new Nest thermostat allows you to set up thermostats all on your phone and then walk away, and a customer can walk in, scan that thermostat, add their Wi-Fi, set up their schedules, and go through that full setup on their own app. For us, that makes a lot of sense when we're doing things like multifamily installs or commercial jobs, or maybe new builds where there is no Wi-Fi yet. And so we want to make sure the thermostat works, it's up and running, but it's not fully set up until it has Wi-Fi and it's been added to a customer account. Now, let's do a little bit of comparison and contrasting so that we can understand a little bit more why these are different. So I just want to show you this little chart here. I'm not going to cover every single category, but some of the things I want you to know is that all of these thermostats are ENERGY STAR certified. They're all going to turn themselves down after you leave. The scheduling is a little bit different. The guided setup on the Nest thermostat means that you are configuring your own schedule, whereas on the Learning thermostat and the Thermostat E, you can either use the auto schedule, where it's going to build one for you after 10 days of you teaching it, or you can actually use a manual or a basic schedule, which is where you're just programming a schedule out of the box there. Now, another call out to make is that we do have temperature sensors, remote temperature sensors, and those are only going to be compatible with the Learning thermostat and the Thermostat E. The last thing to mention here is the warranty. So on the new Nest thermostat, if you have a contractor who is a Nest Pro, their customers are going to get 3 years of warranty versus 1 with the Nest Pro ID inputted at installation. And on the Learning Thermostat, that goes from a 2-year warranty to a 5-year warranty. And on the Nest Thermostat E, that goes from a 1-year warranty to a 3-year warranty. And the last thing I'll say is that Nest Thermostat E is what we call Pro exclusive. It's only available in distribution channels from partners like yourselves. The Nest Thermostat E is not available in retail stores or online anymore. There may be, of course, some here or there left in backstock, but they're not getting any more, and they should be all sold out at this time. So that's something that you can offer, that your contractors can offer to their customers that they can't get at a big box store. Also, when you add in that extended manufacturer's warranty as a Nest Pro, that's even more value that you're able to add as a contractor installing these devices. Now, let's put a little bit of spin on this. Let's talk about differentiation. Basically, when should we use each one of these thermostats? Now, the Nest Learning Thermostat is your holy grail, right? It's what you should be aiming for. It's what you should be pushing because it's going to give the best features. It's the best looking thermostat. It's compatible with the most HVAC systems and equipment types. Now, if you have a customer who wants all of the features but doesn't care as much about the materials or the design, then the Nest Thermostat E is a great option. It is a high quality polymer or a plastic thermostat, but it gives you all of the features of the Nest Learning Thermostat, but for a significant discount, and there is no competition with retail. Now, the new Nest Thermostat is a great device for people who are maybe not so familiar with smart devices. Maybe this would be their first smart device. That guided setup feature makes it really easy for them to understand, what am I programming my thermostat to do, and when is it going to do it? The Learning Thermostat and Thermostat E with auto schedule sometimes gets confusing for customers who are not as tech savvy. So that new Nest Thermostat is great for customers who may not be as tech savvy, or maybe they just want the least expensive option, or maybe they just want to consolidate all of their devices into one app, the Google Home app. And in that case, the new Nest Thermostat is a great option. So that wraps up the thermostat portion of this video. We're going to move on to the Nest Protect. So the Nest Protect is our combination carbon monoxide and smoke alarm. And it is personally one of my favorite products. Now, the reason being is because I never have to think about it, and it's just always there doing its job. So some of the key benefits of the Nest Protect. One, it's got what we call a split spectrum sensor, which means we can detect fast burning and slow burning fires. This is actually a commercial grade sensor, and you'll find very few, if any, residential smoke alarms that have a split spectrum sensor. Now, of course, like I said, this is also a carbon monoxide alarm. So we do have an electrochemical carbon monoxide sensor in this to alert you to carbon monoxide in your home. Now, our Nest Protect also tests itself. So it both tests its alarms, its sensors, its connection, wireless connection, as well as its power, meaning you're not going to wake up at 3 a.m. to chirps in the bedroom, or of course, you never actually know where the chirp is coming from. But we're going to let you know on the app long before we set off any kind of alarms. But also, when you shut off the lights at night, the little LED ring is going to glow green to let you know everything is good. Our sensors are good. Our battery is good. You can sleep easy knowing that if there is an emergency, the Nest Protect is ready for it. Now, we have 2 levels of alerts. We have emergency alerts, which is a full-blown fire or smoke emergency or carbon monoxide emergency, right? Something you need to get out of the house and react to immediately. But we also have what we call heads-up alerts, which are designed to give early warnings to the user. The goal is to let you know there's rising levels of smoke. Maybe you just burned some toast. Maybe there's something small happening and you've got time to handle it. And then we'll also give you the same heads-up alert for rising levels of carbon monoxide. These are different alerts. And one of the nice things about the Nest Protect is we have what are called spoken alerts, which sounds exactly like what they are. We're going to audibly tell you in a comforting voice what's going on. Heads up, there's rising levels of smoke in the kitchen, right? So it's very, very helpful for anybody who is in the home who may not be familiar with what's going on. It's pretty clear to understand there's rising levels of smoke, or it's an emergency. It's time to get out of the house. Now, we have battery and hardwired alarms or hardwired SKUs. And so this way you can either add a single Nest Protect for a customer who may want just those remote notifications, or maybe they want to go ahead and hardwire all of their alarms and they're replacing all their systems, or maybe it's a new build who doesn't want to deal with replacing batteries. So the reason I mentioned adding a single alarm is because of the integration between the thermostats, the Nest thermostats, and the Nest Protect. So if the Nest Protect senses carbon monoxide and there's a Nest thermostat in the house, it will tell that Nest thermostat to shut off your heating system. So that way, if it senses carbon monoxide, it is very likely that if you have a gas furnace, that is the source of your carbon monoxide leak. So we're going to stop calling for that heating and hopefully limit the amount of excess carbon monoxide coming into your home. Now, if the Nest Protect senses smoke, we're going to shut off your HVAC system entirely. We don't want to feed that fire, and we also don't want to spread that smoke throughout the house by running that HVAC system. So this is a really great add-on product and should be really pushed with every single thermostat just by referencing that direct integration. Now, next product I want to talk about is the Nest Hello. So the Nest Hello is our video doorbell. This is a hardwired video doorbell. We have full HDR imaging, which means we can see in differing levels of light. We're offering full HD, that's 1080p. And we also have infrared LEDs so that you can see at night and not just the daytime. And then we have what we call a head-to-toe view, which is where our ratio of our camera lens is a 4:3 ratio, which means that we can actually see taller than almost any other video doorbell on the market. I find that really important, and customers and contractors who have experience with this tell me the same thing, because they can actually see the face of who is at their front door and not just their belt buckle or their logo on their shirt. Now, we also have a feature called Visitor Announcements, which will play a chime through your smart speakers or smart displays from Google, so your Nest Hubs or Nest Minis, but it'll also pull up the video feed on a Nest Hub. So our smart displays, when somebody rings that doorbell, the video feed pops right up on your screen and allows you to have a two-way conversation right there without having to have your phone. Now, we also have personalized alerts where we can send you different motion alerts. We can send you different sound alerts. And one of my favorite is person alerts, which is where we'll notify you specifically if we see a person in the field of view. And that feature and that alert is actually free. Now, we do have a subscription plan called Nest Aware that can allow you to receive specialized notifications such as familiar faces, or even draw what we call activity zones, which are, we want to know specifically what's happening in each little area of your yard or of your property. And because our video doorbell is hardwired, we're going to have much better camera quality, and it's also going to offer your contractors more installation opportunities. I highly encourage you to try one of these devices out to see that camera view and compare it to any other camera manufacturer on the market. Now, let's finish off here with the Google Nest ecosystem. So our products, we have many, many more products than I've gone through today. So starting from left to right, we've got our core products. So those are our smart speakers and smart displays, allowing you to control your home, keep on top of your life, and also our mesh Wi-Fi systems, which allow all of your devices to stay connected reliably. We then have our efficiency products, which are thermostats, as well as our temperature sensor. And then we've got our security products, so our cameras, our lock, our Nest Protect. And then we also have entertainment, which is you can include the smart speakers there, but we also have our HDMI streaming dongles, the Chromecast and the Chromecast with Google TV. So I understand that the majority of your contractors will likely only deal with one of these categories, probably just efficiency. But as we talked about with the Nest Protect and thermostat integration, they really have an opportunity to sell and move into that security or safety category as well. And then from there, the core products and entertainment products are really very easy. They take absolutely no time to set up and install, and the customer is actually going to do the majority of the work there too. But the system that they are left with is going to be really, truly impactful in their lives, and it's that contractor who delivered it in just a couple hours. So I mentioned the Google Assistant and our smart speakers and smart displays. And so we communicate with a lot of different products via the Google Assistant. And so our ecosystem is really built out, starting with our Made by Google products. So those are the ones that we've gone through today. Then we also have what we call Made for Google products. And these are products manufactured by another company, but exclusively for working with Google products. So there are smart lights. There are other products as well that are made for Google. And then we've got our Works with Google Assistant ecosystem. So literally 50,000 plus devices across 3,500 brands of devices that all work and communicate with the Google Assistant. So the Google Assistant is how we communicate with our products with our voice. So when we use the phrase, "Hey Google" or "Okay Google," that's actually going to, sorry, I set off all of my devices. That's actually going to prompt us to communicate with our smart lights, maybe our garage door opener. Maybe it's any other product, our smart plug that we've got in our house. So the Google Assistant is what allows us to communicate with those. And there are 50,000 plus devices that your contractors could purchase and hopefully purchase from you that work with this ecosystem. And to a customer, this is all one very seamless experience. So I want to talk about what we call our native integrations for a second. And this is something that our devices do on their own without any other Google Assistant integrations. This is just Nest products, Google Nest products working together. So the first one is that visitor announcements feature I mentioned with the Nest Hello. When you have this feature turned on and somebody rings your doorbell, a chime will come out of your speakers and displays. And then from a display, it'll actually pull up the camera feed and even announce that there's somebody at the front door and allow you to communicate with them or even leave them a pre-recorded message that you can just tap the screen and it will be spoken through the doorbell. The other important integration here between the doorbell and the Nest Protect is that if the Nest Protect senses carbon monoxide or smoke, it'll actually notify you on the LED ring of the Nest Hello by turning red or yellow to let you know something's going on here. And it can even start streaming the camera in the event of a smoke or carbon monoxide emergency and save that clip for you. And then again, my favorite and the most impactful integration between any Google Nest product is going to be the emergency shutoff, where if the Nest Protect senses smoke or carbon monoxide, it's going to shut off your HVAC system. Now, back to the Google Assistant here for a second. So this is our entire ecosystem is built around the Google Assistant. So this is how our customers communicate with all of their devices, be them our devices or third-party devices, right? There, like we said, 50,000 plus devices from 3,500 plus brands that work with the Google Assistant. Now, if it's a device that works with the Google Assistant, then it's going to actually show up in the Google Home app and allow you to control it as well as automate it. So you're able to deliver as a contractor who utilizes the Google Assistant and Google Nest products. You're able to actually deliver this seamless ecosystem of products from multiple manufacturers. Now, I want to talk about some of the features of the Google Assistant specifically so that we can understand, hey, maybe why should we include a smart speaker with every thermostat, right? Why should we push that to a contractor? You should be buying a Nest Protect and a smart speaker with every single thermostat. So first thing is routines. So routines are our automation engine, which allows us to actually create automations all in the Google Home app that can automate our devices as well as third-party devices. So I mentioned earlier that when I leave the house, my Nest thermostat knows that I'm gone, but it can also tell my smart lights that I'm gone and turn them off as well. And so that's a home and away routine using presence detection to determine when I'm home and when I'm gone. And it can trigger that routine when I'm gone, and it can trigger a separate routine when I get home. I also use a routine as my alarm clock. It turns on my TV, it plays the news, and then when it's time to get ready for bed or time to get out of bed, I tell it I'm up, and then it turns all of these things off and plays a podcast. Now, Google Assistant also allows you to manage your life, which means you can use Google Maps, calendars, reminders, lists. There's even a specific shopping list feature where you can help keep track of all of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, all from your phone or from your smart speaker or smart display. Now, one of my favorite features is also called broadcast. So this is where I can have and play a message from either my phone to my speakers in the house, or even from one speaker to the rest of the speakers in the house. You can also even call individual speakers or call your entire home. But one of my favorite use cases for this is just like dinner time bell, right? Being able to be downstairs cooking and say, hey, G, broadcast, it's dinner time, and a message will play across all of your speakers saying it's dinner time, and hopefully drag all those kids out of their rooms. Now, the last thing is voice match. So voice match is a feature that allows a Google Assistant to distinguish between multiple users. So when I ask the Google Assistant on my smart speaker to play my music, it knows that's Ayaz, and he uses YouTube Music, and this is the music he likes. When I have other people in the house and they were to ask, hey G, play some music, it will know that's not Ayaz. What is the default music provider? Or if I've got a partner or a roommate, they're set up with Voice Match, they can actually choose their own default services. So that way, when they ask for music, it's going to play their music. Or for example, when I say call mom, it pulls that from my contacts list, calls my mom, versus if my roommates were to say call mom, it would call from their contacts mom. Now, if you do need any support, you guys do have access to the Nest VIP Pro support, and I highly recommend utilizing that if you have questions or if your contractors who are Nest Pros only. This is not a public number. This is for Nest Pros and for distributors of Nest, but you can reach out to this number if you have any other questions. Otherwise, that wraps it up for me. Thank you so much. Hope you guys have a great day.